Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Fans Talk Pro Wrestling Podcast. As always, I am your host with the Holla French Toast, Freddy Carlson, and today I am unfortunately unable to be joined by Angelo, but I got some friends who have decided to join us on the pod today. First of all, returning after a very long hiatus to the pod, you know him, you met him before. Say hello to Rafan, everybody.
The Raf is back. The Raf is back to tell all y'all about how to be wrestling fans and how to do it the right way, because being a wrestling fan is the greatest and the worst thing in the world at the same time.
If that ain't the truth. And also, we have a first-time guest with us today, another boy from the club group chat on Instagram, where we all met and got to know each other. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our friend, Austin.
What's up? What's up? What's up? How's it going, guys? Well, I know you can't hear me, but, well, you can hear me, but can't respond.
And that is the first thing that I had to learn about podcasting, was that I never know how to address people. But welcome, guys. Thank you for joining us. It is our pleasure to have you on. As I said, Angelo could unfortunately not be here tonight due to a work commitment, but we wish him the best for work tomorrow, and that he can be with us on the next episode. So,
yes, sir.
Moving right along on to what the first order of business today. Timely that we are recording this. We are recording this at about 10:50 p.m. on Thursday, November the 4th. Just about 3 or 4 hours removed from, if you guys remember Black Wednesday that took place a couple of years ago, almost 2 years ago, when WWE released 30 or so talents and staff, at least to the public eye, in one day. Well, today is arguably round 2 of that kind of a mindset, and it's actually insane to see how many people got released today. And it's sad. It's really sad because there's so much talent. And I'm going to read through the list of names that as of now we know of who have been released, and then I'm going to turn things over to Austin and Rafan and let them give their comments, and after which I will give mine. So, the list of superstars released today, at least at this point: Eva Marie, Harry Smith, formerly known as Davey Boy Smith, the son of the legendary wrestler, Mia Yim, Nia Jax, Jessie Kamea, Zeta Ramir, Jeet Rama, Trey Baxter, Katrina Cortez, B-Fab of Hit Row, Grand Metalik and Lindsay Dorado of the Lucha House Party, Karrion Kross and Scarlett, Ember Moon, Frankie Monet, and honestly, I can't even believe this one. This is the most shocking one of them all. Keith Lee. All released from their WWE contracts today, November the 4th, 2021. So, Rafan, I'm going to turn it over to you first. What are your thoughts?
Man, when it comes to it, let's face it, WWE is just a global brand. It's something that's, if you're a superstar, if you work for a company, and if for some reason they see they don't appeal to an audience as much, they're going to take that and they're going to run with it, and they're going to say that maybe you're not the best for us. But when it comes to it, there's a lot of names around there that it's a lot of great talent, and more particularly in my eyes, in my opinion, Mr. Bearcat, Mr. Keith Lee, Karrion Kross, Scarlett, B-Fab was entertaining. I think she was a good part of Hit Row. And when it comes to it, there's different perspectives to look at it, but I think the biggest thing about it is that if you're a wrestling fan, you expect the unexpected, especially from WWE at this point. They have a lot of talent, and I'm not exactly shocked that they had to release talent. The names that they picked, I'm a little shocked about, but at the same time, they understand that, and I think everyone might be able to understand that business is business. So if you look at it from a business side instead of a personal side, I think WWE was doing what they had to do from that standpoint.
Understandable. Austin, what are you thinking about these releases?
I can't believe they released my girl Eva Marie. She was the best wrestler.
Please
But
tell
nah,
me. Please
like,
tell me you're joking.
yeah, obviously joking.
God,
I think they're gonna release Undertaker at this point. My God.
Yeah, for real. But Rafan put it perfectly. Like, it's a business. Yes, it will upset people, but at the end of the day, they're a global brand. They want to make money. Sadly, they they chose some wrong names like Ember Moon, BFAB. I know we didn't really get to see a lot of her on the main roster, but I think she was going to be pretty good. Keith Bearcat Lee, Karrion Cross. I mean, I even heard on Instagram that Karrion Cross was going to get like a whole new persona. He was going to be like Dexter Loomis almost. Scarlett, I sucked that we didn't see her on the main roster, but kind of assumed when Karrion got released. But other than that, I mean, sucks, but at the end of the day, business is business. Like, you got to do it.
Yeah, no, I get that mindset. I think for me, it's I get the whole business side of things, but now this is the disgruntled fan in me that's going to come out right here, and I've had moments on this podcast where I'll stand on my soapbox and I'll preach about something that I don't quite agree with. And I gotta say something here. I know it's a business, and I know that they're going to claim budget cuts until the day that they're blue in the face and die. But they just reported arguably their best quarter since the pandemic started. And they just ran a Saudi Arabian pay-per-view where I'm sure they were thrown money with money to spare even after paying the talent who worked the show and all the ring crew and everything. They have money to spare and then some from that. And you're telling me that you're going to quote-unquote cut people for budget cuts who are that damn good? I'm sorry. I can excuse I can excuse a handful. I mean, I don't want to excuse any of them because none of these people deserve to lose their jobs. But I've been critical of Eva Marie and of Nia Jax. I don't want to see them lose their jobs. And now there's a report that I'm just seeing literally right now that says Nia Jax was released in part because she's not vaccinated against COVID-19, which, if that's true, is in and of itself an entirely different discussion.
Yeah, right.
But focusing on the overall point here, you're going to tell me that you can't find a way to not only pay these people, but use them in a productive way. Again, I'm critical of Eva Marie. I don't think she wants to be a wrestler. She doesn't, in my opinion, and she shouldn't be there if she doesn't want to be. But at the end of the day, the list of names that I read out a couple of minutes ago is so chock full of either talent that should be champion right now, in the very near future, or has the potential to be world champions down the line. I mean, like you said, BFAB. She's not great in the ring right now, but she's a part of an entertaining group. Her gimmick is fantastic. Hit Row is arguably one of my favorite things about WWE TV right now. And she would have been just fine when she's given the time to develop in the ring. But going into the bigger and more direct picture, specifically with Keith Lee, I've said for the longest time that since his moment with Roman Reigns at Survivor Series 2 years ago, he was going to be world champion very, very soon. And they hot-shotted him right to the main roster. They gave him the strap. They put him in there with Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre in his first month on the main roster, inserted into the WWE title scene. And I know there was health problems, and there was a start and stop with his return, and there's so many things that we don't know. But at the end of the day, again, how can you not find a chance for Keith Lee to be a champion on your roster? This man is so friggin' talented. He deserves the world and then some.
Yeah, especially how Vince likes big, bulkier men.
Yeah.
Like Keith Lee, like kind of he fit that picture. I mean, he did moves that no one of his size could really do.
Exactly.
Right. And I think when it comes down to it, he was a special talent. But given the circumstances, right? So just addressing that what you said before about the whole earnings for the quarter, which was it was incredible. Just looking at the number itself, but then you look at it, and maybe they did it on the purpose of possibly signing the same talent to smaller amounts for contracts. And with my brother actually brought it up was the idea since Ring of Honor closed down, and maybe we'll get to this at a later point, but the just the talent pool that's there that may have younger talent are just what WWE may see as more just more exposable or better equipped talent for them. And maybe that's their opportunity for that. And for me, especially with the whole Keith Lee situation, I'd like to think, being really optimistic about it, not sure if it's a chance, but I like to think the WWE just wants to pull off that swerve where they release Keith Lee now, he comes back at the Rumble, and he wins the Rumble when he just signs a contract right away. That's just something WWE might do, but that's just from an optimistic standpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how NXT is more, since they did the 2.0 stuff, they're trying to promote younger talent. So maybe like the older talent that's been on NXT for a few years might jump up to the main roster.
Right.
And like you said, Rafan, with the whole ROH shutting its doors for the time being, maybe WWE sees it as an opportunity to get those younger talent into NXT to have them shine, and just a new wave, I think, right, for NXT.
Yeah.
2.0.
And I can get that too. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I'm sure there's not benefits to. You got to look at the glass half full, not half empty. I understand that. I'm just really, for lack of a better phrase, I'm pissed off. Because this is not the first time this has happened in the last couple of years. Well, I get it. They would do quote-unquote spring cleaning here and there. They would do this, they would do that. Whatever, fine. But you got to tell me that this is now at least the second or third time in the last 2 years that you're going to release this much talent in one fell swoop. It blows my mind how you have to do this.
Yeah, it's tough.
And like, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say there's just a lot of talent that you look at the way they are now, especially in other companies, and it's shocking to think, like, and it's a more perspective thing, but to think that someone, in my eyes, like you say with Eva Marie, how she wasn't released before others were, like Rusev when he was released, or just competitors of that caliber, and how they're released at earlier stages, or how certain talent is released now, if they're released at all.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think just that itself is surprising, but I'll just shift it back to you. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, and again, there's you gotta take it with the glass half full, and I understand that. But I mean, I saw the statistic. I shared it in the group chat with you guys a little while ago. 5 of the NXT champions since 2017 have been released in the last year from WWE. Andrade, Aleister Black, now is known as Malachi Black, and Andrade is Andrade El Idolo in AEW. Adam Cole, he's in AEW, and then today both Keith Lee and Karrion Kross got released from their contracts, and that's just a handful. NXT of old is a shell of its former self, and now rumors of Kyle O'Reilly's contract coming up. Could he be leaving soon? It's so unbelievable. And that is that is something that I will never be able to understand. And I really hope for the best for all these people who got released today. They are all talented individuals, and they will land on their feet, I'm sure. We've seen it before. And you don't need the WWE to be a success these days, but the question is, how much space do these other companies have to make them stars? They're not going to all be able to go to AEW and become stars. They're not going to all be able to go to New Japan or Ring of Honor, or not Ring of Honor now, or Impact and become stars.
Right.
How many of those who we've seen be released who still don't have a home? Like Braun Strowman, perfect example. Lana, perfect example.
Wow.
So, Yeah, anyway, the long story short of it all is all those superstars released from their contracts today. We hope for the best that there's no more coming. But yes, it's a black day in the wrestling world. Once again, seeing so many talented individuals lose their jobs and be forced to now have to reevaluate their careers and reinvent themselves on the indies. But we hope for the best, and I'm sure that there will be some that come back to WWE at some point in the future, a la Samoa Joe.
Of course. Definitely.
Any other thoughts on today's releases before we transition to the next topic and the main point of why we are here tonight?
I think when it comes to it, when all said and done, we do wish the best for all the talent involved, and we just hope to see everyone succeed to the best of their ability, and we hope to see every company flourish when it comes to it.
Yeah. Exactly put it.
Yeah, exactly. Alrighty, so now what we are going to do, we'll transition into something that actually will kind of relate in a roundabout sense and talking about AEW. Tonight was supposed to be an opportunity to talk about All Elite Wrestling and its pros, its cons, maybe the things that are riding in the middle right now, and things that it could both do better or worse going forward. AEW came into existence nearly 3 years ago now, in January of 2019, when Hangman Adam Page, the Young Bucks, and Cody Rhodes announced on Being the Elite on YouTube that they were starting, founding, and beginning their own professional wrestling company after leaving Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling. AEW has since transcended the wrestling world in a lot of ways, but has also picked up a lot of skepticism, criticism, and, I gotta say it, hatred from some wrestling fans. And I know that there's a vast amount of difference in opinion in the group that we have here today even, and now is an opportunity to talk about that. So, AEW, good, bad, or indifferent for the wrestling world in 2021 as we approach the end of the year very soon and head into 2022 and AEW's third full year of being on national television. So, I went to Rafan first last time. Austin, I'm going to go to you first this time. Just to start off in a general sense, what do you think of, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, when you think of AEW and what it is doing in the wrestling world right now?
Kind of indifferent. I feel they have a large talent pool that isn't getting that limelight. I mean, they'll be wrestling on Dark or whatever, but you don't really see them on like Rampage or Dynamite. Just because you got these big names, like CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, Sting, all like kind of taking up TV time. And with the vast amount of talent, it's kind of gotten to a point of when will it stop? Because, I mean, going back to these releases, Tony Khan might be like, I want to get all these people in, and half of them won't be used, or they'll be used on their YouTube channel for Dark and whatnot. It's just kind of indifferent. I mean, I like how they're doing the younger talent, like Jungle Boy and whatnot, and Sydal, brother, I'm totally drawing a blank on his name.
Mike Sydal?
Yeah. And I don't know. I'd watch it. Not a big fan of it, but, you know, it's more wrestling at the end of the day. It's more wrestling that fans can watch, and honestly, fans can watch almost every single day of the week, just because of the vast amount of differing wrestling that's on, like Raw, SmackDown, NXT, AEW, Dynamite, Rampage, Impact even. It's honestly one of the best times to be a wrestling fan, but at the same time, it's kind of, you know, I'm drawing a blank on what I'm going to say. But To put it short, I'm indifferent. They have personally, they have too much talent that can't really be shown because of the WWE rejects, I'll call them, coming in and taking most of the TV time.
Thank you,
And that's
Austin.
where I'll draw the line on that one.
Thank you, Austin. And before we continue, we are recording live, so there's always subject to a surprise. And you hear that background noise, ladies and gentlemen? That is our old friend Adam, who has joined us in the chat. Adam, can you hear us?
Hey, what's up?
There we go. Adam is here. Adam's been on the pod before as well. He is with us now as well. Adam, just to catch you up, Austin was just giving his comments on AEW. I know you have a lot of things that you might want to say about it, so we'll let you get settled and everything. And while you do, I will turn it over to Rafan, who will give his take on AEW. So, Raf, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, sir. So, to latch on what Austin stated, I agree with him when I think that the talent pool in AEW is just, there's a lot of talent. There's a lot of talent anywhere, to be quite honest. And that's where I think WWE struggled too. That's why I think WWE is just trying to get rid of the surplus of talent. And I think AEW is trying to collect that. See, my thing about AEW, and I'm not directly a fan of them, to be quite honest with you. When it comes to it, more wrestling is more wrestling, and that's great. But the way that they deliver the wrestling, it's great and all, but it just seems like it's deliberately out there to aim at something. Like they're deliberately out there to aim at WWE and try to show, oh, you didn't use your talent correctly. Let me show you how to use your talent. Meanwhile, a lot of younger talent that are, in a sense, originals of AEW or just going AEW to build their name aren't given that exposure. And the only issue I have with that, the biggest issue with it is that I see the flaws within it and I see what happened with TNA. And I'm telling you, in 2006, 2008, I was a TNA fan. I was watching TNA, I was watching WWE. But you looked at TNA and when you look at the talent that happened, it was great. In 06, 07, when Kurt Angle came, and really helped them put them back on the map, helped them put them on the sheet against WWE. That was great. And then Booker T came. Then Scott Steiner came. Then Jeff Hardy came. And all these names, and they're great talents. But at the end of the day, they were getting shined a little too much. And when it came to it, TNA, when it came to singles competitors, singles stars, the two names that I always think about, always mention, because they never got really overshadowed as much, were Samoa Joe and AJ Styles. AJ Styles was definitely someone who definitely benefited throughout TNA. But Samoa Joe was someone who could have shined a little brighter, who could have been TNA champion a little bit more. And then you look at the people who were given the TNA championship, and you look at it and say, Jeff Hardy, did he really need to win that title? It was great and all, but did he really need to win it? Did Mick Foley need to fight for the title? It was something along those lines. And when I look at AEW and I see little spots of that, then that's what kind of draws me away from it. Because besides the fact that you take direct shots to WWE, I feel like they're, in a sense, a glorified independent company, which is great and all, but you can't put yourself and direct yourself as an independent company and try to compete with WWE when they're at the major or at the top. And I look at the way, I get it. Everyone loves Christian. Everyone thinks Christian is great. But are you really going to tell me Christian's going to be your world champion? He's going to fight for the AEW world champion, and we're supposed to believe that he might win? Are we supposed to believe that that Chris Jericho is still at his peak? Because Chris Jericho is great and all. And I think maybe he's when it comes to talent, to veterans, I think they use them the best out of any. But now look at Sting. What is Sting doing, man? I mean, he's literally out there going to the ring for what? To look at Darby Allin wrestle a match? And then I look at him when he's wrestling. It's just the type of thing where it's because he wants to keep wrestling, they're going to give him the chance to keep wrestling. And that's great and all. But when you give someone the TV time, you take it away from people like Jungle Boy, like Santino and LAX. Or just take it away from that younger talent pool, then all you're doing is replicating what TNA did and what WCW. I'm going to stray away from WCW because, to be honest with you, I'm as confident in that information. But let's see what TNA did and the way they just took away that talent pool And I'd rather see Kenny Omega on my screen for 30 minutes straight than see Kenny Omega for 5 minutes. Then Christian come out right after him. Then Sting come out right after him. Then Big Show come out right after him. Then Mark Henry. I just feel like they just used the veteran talent that they had and they put them on TV. When I look at it and I'm like, do what they did with Dean Malenko, where you had veteran talent, or Arn Anderson. You had veteran talent and you have them there to help benefit the wrestlers and tell them what to do in the back, or just tell them what to do in the ring. But you don't have to wrestle. What's the point of that? What's the point of take away that screen time? And it feels like, in a sense, I think that's what takes away from just the majority of wrestling itself. And I think that's, if anything's going to dissolve AEW, it might be that.
Absolutely. Some great points, some great thoughts. Adam, now is your chance to shine. And remember, as I've said, this is a PG show. I'm going to leave it at that. Adam, give us your take on All Elite Wrestling.
I got you. I know the rules. This ain't my first rodeo. All right. That being said, just to build off what Raf was saying, is like you see a lot of the talent, like the younger talent in AEW, are being consistently overlooked. Like you look at someone like a Dante Martin or someone like that. Like he's like a really good wrestler, but he's only like, only featured on like Dark or Elevation or whatever the C show's called. And then this is just coming from me. It's like when AEW was first like getting started back in 2019, you had people who were like, at your MJFs, your Darby Allins, your Sammy Guevara's and whatnot. And quite frankly, 2 years later, and they just still seem to be in the same position that they are. Like MJF losing the Jericho feud was, not a good thing because, if you're trying to build up a company, you want your younger talent to go over. And MJF's one of those guys that if he was to go to WWE, he would thrive there because a lot of people are saying he's like the Miz Jr. People forget that the Miz is arguably one of the more accomplished wrestlers on the roster. And so like a lot of people in AEW would like at least a lot of the people who haven't been to WWE, like Powerhouse Hobbs, for instance. I remember there was a match a couple months ago where Powerhouse Hobbs lost to Orange Cassidy in 13 seconds. That is a travesty. You take Powerhouse Hobbs, who was built like a Big E type, I guess comparatively speaking, losing to Orange Cassidy, who's a 37-year-old skinny fat slacker, like really 13 seconds, and then he loses to him again in the Eliminator tournament or whatever it's called. I don't know. Maybe I just have an irrational, hatred towards Orange Cassidy, but that's someone whose shtick got very old very quick, and I feel like a lot of the AEW sentiments come from like they're all like it's all very cliquish. It's very inside jokes. Like I know I read today somewhere, I think it was on Reddit or something, about the John Silver versus Adam Cole or something like that. And you like get the context behind it. You have to watch it be in the Elite. Like I don't think a successful wrestling company should, like make you have to watch their extracurriculars on YouTube to get the full gist of the story. I think it's your job having a wrestling show on a major network to just have the context ready for when the time is. I don't think having to sift through hours and hours of miscellaneous footage just to understand what's going on is a good thing. Because I know for me, I don't watch AEW on a regular basis. I have stuff to do on Wednesday nights or Saturdays, wherever Dynamite's on. I don't want to have to, search the web just to understand what's going on. And that's something that WWE does very well. Like I understand that sometimes it gets mundane and sometimes it gets repetitive, but at the same time, it's like with WWE, it's easy to follow. It's like, yes, Roman Reigns is the champion. He's the best in the world. And the ongoing story of SmackDown is, he's the chief. And it's very clear and it's very concise and it's very straight to the point with AEW at least. And also, and this now just changing topics too on the same sentiment, with old TNA point. Cody Rhodes is very reminiscent, at least to me, of Reign of Terror era Jeff Jarrett, where everything's overbooked, where he's like the star of the show, and like it's just mind boggling because him beating Malachi Black is just like Malachi should have, after he won the second time, it should have just been done. I don't think Cody has to go over every feud. And, with his overbooked entrance and his overbooked thing, and even though he has like a reality show now, it's just, not very. Cody to me is arguably the worst part of AEW. Granted, you can also go with the Elite, and also, like I've mentioned a plethora of times, I don't like how every ex-WWE talent has to go to AEW. Like, come on. Do you really think a Tony Nese or a Samurai Del Sol is really going to do better in AEW than they did in WWE? Like, I doubt it. And some people made sense. Like, I know Moxley made a lot of sense. The late, great Brody Lee made sense because those are people who were frustrated and could really kickstart it. But when you're adding people like Andrade off the bat, like I get it, and it's cool that to have another alternative to people to get a paycheck, because at the end of the day, you're really just doing what you want in order to provide for yourself. So I understand it. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think it's a smart thing to keep people invested because it's a lot of people like want to like a lot of people to go to AEW. It's like, come on, man. The roster's not that big. They don't have that much TV show. Not everyone's going to watch a YouTube show of, like, Dark or Evolution. And also, like, their booking of CM Punk, I know has been a very controversial topic. It's, like, not really controversial. It's just very lackluster because you compare it to WWE, like people love to do with AEW. You see how they book Edge. He comes back Rumble 20 after, like, 9 years, away. And he's treated as the star as he should be. The pandemic happened, obviously wasn't there for a couple months, comes back 2021. Main event, like that's how he should be doing. He should be in those high profile feuds. And then you look at CM Punk, who had most people convinced that he would never return to wrestling. And now he's just out here cutting weekly promos. Like, he shouldn't be doing that. He should be in a high profile feud like that. He should be, like, CM Punk should be in an Edge versus Rollins-esque feud. But instead, it's like I don't really know what you like. It's hard to stay invested in AEW. Like, I know Full Gear's coming up. And I'm, like, not even convinced Hangman's going to win the title. Like, if Hangman Page doesn't win the title, that'll be the single most detrimental thing that could happen to AEW in 2021.
Well, I like the fact that we have three similar yet different opinions on All Elite Wrestling. And, it's nice for me to be able to kind of just sit back and listen as you all just kind of give your thoughts and opinions on it. So I'll throw my 2 cents in the ring as well. What I will say is I lean more towards the positive, actually, but have several bits of the indifferent locked in as well. I think we all universally agree when we say that the depth of the talent pool is a little too deep. I agree in the sense of there is way too many guys and girls who are signed to this company and who work for them regularly to ever give them proper TV time. A couple of years ago, we would talk a lot about WWE signing every big star in the world just so they couldn't work somewhere else. And I guess that the whole idea of the releases, which we talked about at the start of the episode, kind of ties into that because eventually we knew that something like this would happen. Not everyone can stay. Not everyone can become a star in WWE all at once. And the same will go for AEW. I mean, it's going to come to a point where it's like they have so many guys. And I'm going to take the Bobby Fish signing, for example, who recently signed with AEW. Bobby Fish is a great wrestler. He has a lot of technical skills, and he is very well equipped in the ring to put on a good match at almost any time. I'll say that. But is he going to ever make waves, maybe a little bit beyond the TNT Championship scene? I mean, I don't know. I want to believe he can provide something great to the company, and I want to believe that he will eventually have meaningful feuds. But so far, he's been having one-off matches. A match with Sammy Guevara, a match with Bryan Danielson, a match with CM Punk. And that's just kind of the bog standard for a lot of these signings. It very rarely goes where you sign a massive megastar and you do the right things with them. And that's because the depth of the talent is so deep that you're trying to squeeze everybody onto every show. Now, I will disagree when I say I actually personally love Orange Cassidy. I personally think he's going to be a star. And I think he's one of those guys like Jungle Boy who should be featured more frequently than some of the other guys, because that's a point that I also agree with. I believe it was Austin or Raph who said it. But yeah, I think that AEW is going to be around for a while. I don't think they're going to fall victim to the same mistakes of TNA and WCW, at least not yet. However, that being said, I do remain weary of the fact that I don't know if AEW can maintain this pace. I mean, we were talking about all these big names that were released from their contracts today from WWE. And when these no-compete clauses come up, how much are you going to bet that there's going to be a lot of speculation, a lot of rumor, all of these things that are going to say, oh, so-and-so is going to sign with AEW. This person's going to go to AEW. Because now that's all that there is. It's not a question of maybe they'll go to Japan, or maybe they'll go to Mexico, or maybe they'll go to Impact or Ring of Honor. No. Now, AEW is going to be the place that every big name free agent is going to end up being linked to for some reason. You could bet your bottom dollar that that's what's going to happen with guys like Keith Lee and Mia Yim and Ember Moon and Karrion Kross and Scarlett. If it's not going to be AEW, it'll be Impact. But let's be honest, AEW is going to be the first place that everyone thinks of. And that to me is just not okay. You can't sign everybody because you're never going to be able to show up everybody. But I'm going to try and look at it from the glass half full, as I've done before with the releases. I think that AEW has a lot of potential. They put on a lot of great matches, at least from my perspective. I watched All Out, and I was very highly appreciative and applauding of the show that they put on from start to finish. That being said, I do think that signing Adam Cole was a bit unnecessary. This is a guy who was the face of a brand and the definition of what NXT was for basically 3.5 years. And now he signs with AEW and he's just doing stupid shtick jokes with his friends. I get it. This is their playground. They can do what they want. But, and I'm not going to be Jim Cornette because Jim Cornette's take is a bit too far left. But, you know, he's just... Adam Cole shouldn't be doing what he's doing now. He needs to be in a meaningful feud.
Manager to Keith.
Manager to Keith Lee.
Keith Lee.
Yeah.
Well, that was before Keith Lee was released, but Bearcat Lee. I mean, sorry to interrupt.
Nah, you're
just
good.
thought I had to add that.
Listen, that's fine. But no, I think that Adam Cole is a guy who should be in a meaningful feud. This is a guy who should not be spending his time in a 6-man tag team match with the Young Bucks every single match that he's in. He should be in a match. He should be in the main event. He should be feuding with Kenny Omega. If they sign Adam Cole and his immediate feud is, I'm going to face Kenny Omega for the AEW World Championship because I'm the best damn wrestler in the world and I have proven that time and again while competing against this company, now you have my attention. You sign Adam Cole and you stick him doing the same old shtick that he did in Ring of Honor 4 years ago. What is that doing for his career? It's regressing him. It's not progressing him. It's regressing him. And that's not going to help anybody. It's not going to help anything. I'm sorry to say it. So that's my indifferent side. I have that thought about that. But again, the upside I think is very high. The quality of the matches is next level. And in turn, the quality of the AEW matches has only helped WWE to feel inspired again, because for the last month or so, Raw and SmackDown have actually been much more watchable from start to finish, and we can be less critical of them because there's more wrestling. And I think it was Raph, you said it best. More wrestling is good. More wrestling is what we need, what we want. I personally don't care what happens on either show. I don't care what the ratings are. I don't care about any of that as long as I'm getting good wrestling each and every single time I turn on my television. Because that's what I'm a fan of. I am a fan of pro wrestling. We are on the Fans Talk Pro Wrestling podcast right now. We are all fans of the greatest sport in the world. If you listen to our last episode, the way that I closed it was very simple but very direct. This is the best damn sport in the world, and it has been that way for me, at least, since I was a very young child. And to me, to now sit here and say we have two companies on national television who at least 4 days out of the week can provide us with great quality and high caliber wrestling. That is something that we have not seen in over 20 years. And I absolutely love it. So if I am a wrestling fan who's disgruntled because AEW might do some things that I don't understand, or WWE might book things that just drive me up the wall, that's just me being a fan for as many years as I have. But a long story short, in my opinion, I hope that the upside of AEW continues to outweigh the bad, and that eventually we see positives come out of this, and that we see positives come from what we are witnessing in AEW, like the uprising of stars like Jungle Boy Jack Perry, Orange Cassidy, Scorpio Sky, just to name a few. I don't know if it'll end up that way, but my hope is that that's what it'll be. So I'm going to lean towards the positive and the good, but I teeter on the line of that and indifferent. But I don't think the bad will outweigh the good in the long run for the foreseeable future. If this trend of signing every wrestler in the world continues, though, and that will be time will be told as we see what happens with the wrestlers released today, that could change a lot of things. And that could change my stance on it. We have to wait and see. Any other thoughts or opinions from everybody else here? Anything else you guys want to add?
I mean, you kind of said it best. I mean, like you said, like people like to hop on the ratings and all that, but like at the end of the day, it's really just pro wrestling. Like as you guys know, NXT 2.0 is like my favorite weekly show, and that averages like what 650 to 700,000 a week. Ratings don't like the thing with the ratings. Like it doesn't matter as much as people say it is, but they do matter. Like you know what I'm saying? Like I think they put too much emphasis on the like Tony Khan being like, "I beat your main show, let's go." But Tony Khan is an entirely separate beast, and that's for an entirely different episode. If y'all would have me on for that, but yeah, like. You know, AEW. I think AEW indirectly, inspired the conceptualization of NXT 2.0. Because if you take a look at that show, that's what like a show like AEW Dark should be doing. Like you know what I'm saying? Like taking your, I guess not necessarily untalented, but more lesser developed people, and building up for a higher audience. Like you take a look at NXT now, you see people like Braun Breaker or like the resident good guy Tony D'Angelo or someone like that, and like that that's gonna work in the long run. Like AEW, instead of signing up every good prospect on the horizon, they really should like you take a look at someone like a Dante Martin or something like that, or like a Daniel Garcia, like. They're both 20 years old, and they're already as good as they are. And they're only going to get better. Like, if they could put more of an emphasis on that, as opposed to seeing the elite just, reenact whatever weird nostalgia act that they're doing, then AEW will, at least in my opinion, will, be a more watchable product. Because at the end of the day, that's all we really want to see. We want to see good wrestling and compelling stories to accompany them. So, yeah.
I think, back to what Freddy said, at the end of the day, no matter how negatively we've talked about AEW and that's our perspectives on how we don't like the way it's going, I think at the end of the day, more wrestling is more wrestling. And that's and that's the end effect of it. And hopefully, every company prospers. And hopefully it's the sense of building and going on. Because let's face it, wrestling is, in a sense, the popularity of it has been going down, and maybe that's the way society is structured. Maybe that's the way that just people feel about the product and stuff, because everyone looks at it because it's fake, or whatever it may be, whatever the circumstances may be. I think if we're able to generate that feeling of a global understanding and a better sense of likeliness amongst the industry itself, not the company, but the industry, the product, and whether that's with 10 companies, 2 companies, or 1 company, I think that the more that we have accessible, the more talent we have, the more shows we have, it's going to grow on a product. And us as wrestling fans, I think that's what we want to see more than anything else. We want to see every competitor succeed, every talent succeed, every company succeed. But we want to make sure they succeed by doing it in a respectable way of, in the sense, I think it's just wanting to be wrestling, not wanting to put out another company out of business, not wanting to have a negative connotation of ambition. I think it's more so wanting to do good for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, what I think it all comes down to is, like we said, I think we all universally agree on one thing, and that is that good pro wrestling, no matter where it comes from, who is involved, or what company they work for, that is all we are in this for. We're all conditioned that WWE is the only real major company because it has been for a very long time, and that's all well and good. And they put on great things. I am over the top impressed and in love with the storylines that they provided with Roman Reigns. I'll be honest. Roman is my favorite part of any WWE brand. He is so damn good, charismatic. He has turned from the person that I couldn't stand the most to see to the person that I want to see the most when I put on my TV and watch wrestling, or when I pay for a ticket to go to a show now. When I went to SmackDown last month and Adam and Rafan and Angela wasn't there, but Adam and Rafan, you were both there. You know how loud Madison Square Garden was when Roman Reigns came out. This is a man who was playing a heel, and we were cheering for him like he was the biggest babyface in the entire locker room. Because we think of how important he is and how good he is for not only the show, not only for the segment, but for the matches he competes in. Since he's won that title, the quality of matches that the Universal Championship has been defended in has risen through the roof. And we can list the name of superstars that he has faced since he won the title, excluding how he won it in that triple threat with Braun Strowman and The Fiend. His 2 matches with his cousin Jey Uso, storytelling beauties at its finest. His Survivor Series match with Drew McIntyre, hard-hitting hoss fight like it should have been. His story with Kevin Owens, while it may have gone on a little too long, that could be my only complaint about it, every match had a different story, but it was all about the same thing. Kevin Owens was desperate to end Roman Reigns' title reign because it was all he had left. And he failed. And we see that now with Kevin. What's he going to do next? Because he's been, since then, he hasn't had a direction. But I think he's finally finding one now on Raw in the WWE title picture. Moving right along, Daniel Bryan. He damn well sent Daniel Bryan out of the company with how he put him out. Edge. Yeah. He put him down even though there was some shenanigans. John Cena. One of the greatest of all time. In my opinion, the greatest of all time. John Cena. 16-time world champion. Beat him clean as a whistle at SummerSlam. Cesaro. Brought that man to the main event of a pay-per-view, which he had never done one-on-one before. Cesaro gets that opportunity. Rey Mysterio in Hell in a Cell. And now, most recently, the Demon Finn Balor. That one was a little hokey. And the Beast Brock Lesnar. And the list has grown and grown. And now, I know we're not talking about WWE and Roman Reigns, but that's the standard. That is the standard. There is a certain level of understanding that the standard has always been set by WWE, and I'm sorry to say that it always will be. Sorry, AEW. You've impressed me, but you will never be that damn good. You will never be Roman Reigns, final boss, ultimate head of the table god status. no matter who you put in that title scene, no matter what storyline you portray. But if you give the title to Hangman Page at Full Gear in 9 days from the time of recording, you're moving in the right direction and you're doing the right thing. Because I'll give you this, Hangman Adam Page is in my opinion, the most over wrestler in AEW. He's my favorite superstar in the company, and he should damn well be the world champion. And if you let him now run with the title and focus that title less on shenanigans with the Elite and more on being the title that's defended in the main event of every show, you've impressed me again. Because when Jon Moxley had that title, that's exactly what happened. He was defending it against anyone and everyone. Kenny Omega has done it against a lot, but not against everybody. Not as frequent.
Yeah, I think. But you can go.
Yeah, like I was just gonna say, like presentation matters with your world title because you know what I'm saying. Like that's your main event. That's what gets people in the door. You take a look at like, the history of the AEW, like World Heavyweight Championship. Chris Jericho, you know, that was your natural first champion. Chris Jericho was a draw, and he, you know, presented it well as your typical heel champion, as it should be. And then you have Moxley, like you had said, like yeah, he's an ex-WWE guy, but at this point, it's like. He was the natural heir to be the second champion, and did it? You know, we just walked in and wrecked it as he should have. And then with Omega, it's like with me, it's a bit frustrating to see how it's been booked because Omega shouldn't be this comedy-esque, you know, super villain or like an anime villain or whatnot. He should be how he was portrayed. Like 2017 to 2019 in New Japan. Just because while I might have some reservations about how he wrestles or like how he's overly praised, the man can go in the ring. Like say what you want to say, but like and I want AEW to succeed. All my criticism are just be genuinely frustrated with the product. Like Omega, the one-winged angel is easily one of the best finishers in the industry right now. And you have like him just being goofy, like he just doesn't look credible with his Triple H-esque mustache or whatever he's going on right now. Like he just does. He comes off as insincere and just an egomaniac. Like sure, it might be his character, but I don't know Hangman Page. Like Adam Page has that down to a T. And in the 9 days. When he hits that buckshot lariat and wins the title, hopefully, then that'll be good because Hangman Page. Although, and this is just me, it's just I don't like how they've already foreshadowed it that much. You know what I'm saying? Then that just might be a gripe, and that might be me being too pessimistic. But you know, people are like, "Oh, Hangman Page should be the one to do it," and then they're actually running that story. Like, yeah, predictability in wrestling isn't terrible. But if it's for one of your biggest stories of the year, then it, you know. But hey, right. As long as it's good wrestling, as long as it's a good match, then I can't fault it for being predictable.
That's fair. So with my point, and I'm sure you guys can possibly agree with this, but I think Roman Reigns' title reign was the first time I've ever praised the Universal title over the WWE title. Just the way the whole Universal title has went, the entire history of it. It's only been a couple of years, but I feel like it's for the first time more important than the actual WWE title, and the entire reign of that has been great. See, now here's the difference with AEW and WWE. I love Kenny Omega. I think he's an amazing talent. You guys have your personally, his character himself, I don't really find that much of a problem with, just because he can be that sarcastic, egomaniac-ish douche. But I think I think he pulls it off well, to be quite honest with you. But man, when it comes to it, as much as I love Kenny Omega, I feel like you have to give that title to Hangman Page. At this point, like you guys stated, he's so over, and with the fans. And to be quite honest, I haven't watched AEW that much. I do watch it. I haven't watched pay-per-views, but I saw when he came out and the Evasion. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of Hangman Page whatsoever. But then I saw when he came out, the crowd went wild, absolutely insane on how that happened. And I just look at it, and like you said, Freddy, he's so over. And it's like, if he doesn't win, who's going to win? and you just know they're gonna give it to someone like CM Punk. And like I don't want CM Punk to get in the title picture like that. I want CM Punk to have high profile feuds, believe me. But I don't want CM Punk to wrestle Kenny Omega for the AEW title and win it off of him. I feel like then at that point, all you're doing is the same thing I stated before. You're giving it to someone who used to be in WWE, and because WWE didn't do it correctly, we're gonna do it to show that we're better than them. I feel like you're setting off the wrong example. So now the difference lies within Kenny's reign and Roman's reign. The thing about Kenny, Heyman feels like the perfect person to beat him. The thing about Roman, I don't think anyone wants to see his reign end because it's so great. It's so entertaining. And when it comes to it, I don't think we find the right person to beat him. At first, I really thought it was Cena. I thought SummerSlam, if you got to do it, they got to do it Cena. And before that, I thought it might be Edge. Not Money in the Bank, but I thought maybe at Mania Edge. But I thought Cena. And then here comes Brock. And it wasn't believable with Brock. But now who's going to face Roman? And for some reason, and I'm taking the bias completely out of it. Because when it comes to these conversations, I'm completely taking out of it. But when I look at the reign, I'm like, man, if I'm WWE right now, I'm not panicking on who's going to beat Roman for that title. I'm not panicking because I feel like there's a lot of options, a lot of top people he could still beat. And when they're ready to give it to someone, I think he's going to make the right decision. Whether that may be a one-on-one match at Mania, whether that may be a cash-in, whether that may be something where Paul Heyman screws him, whatever the situation might be. And I look at AEW, and I feel like if Omega does beat Heyman, what other credible face will you give this title to? Jungle Boy? Is it believable for Jungle Boy to beat Hangman? I apologize. Omega. Is it believable for Jungle Boy to beat Omega? It feels more believable for Hangman to defeat him. And I think if they do keep Kenny as champion, and I'm not sure if they might keep him champion, then he'll win the next pay-per-view. But I feel like if they don't give Hangman this opportunity, this chance right now, it's something that we as fans might question a lot more. And hopefully it's something where if he does win it, hopefully later on, whenever they're ready to, like MGF, I think that he would be a great, credible opponent for Hangman. But that's later on. And I think that's where the discrepancy lies in between those two companies and their top faces.
I agree to that, yeah. And to go back to Adam's point, he was talking about how Jericho and Moxley felt like natural champions to go with. When being ex-WWE guys. I watched today actually for the first time Chris Jericho's Stone Cold Broken Skull Sessions episode. And I got to see some insight on how Jericho saw AEW going and how it was kind of a known commodity that he was going to be the guy that they built that company on because he was the known name. He was going to be the guy in the main event scene that everybody knew who he was in the mainstream because he had been with WWE for so long. I think that's the right mindset. You can't start a new major promotion without something like that, someone like that. But after Moxley, I think it should be. I think it shouldn't be any it should not always be an ex-WWE guy. Now I'm not saying that they can't win the title. I think a guy like Miro should one day be champion. I think Daniel Bryan and CM Punk will be in the scene at some point, but right now is Hangman's time. It has to be.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I think that's all of my thoughts. Anybody else have any thoughts?
I mean, have you go?
Going back to like the ratings thing, as a fan, you shouldn't really worry about the ratings. That is for the people in the headquarters of AEW and WWE to worry about because at the end of the day, demographics matter, and that's how advertising is. Fans shouldn't look at it like, oh, AEW beat this person, this show this week. AEW is the better show. It's not always the point of watching wrestling, Like, if you take it to football, you might have a favorite team, but I want to see if this team loses so they don't face my team, you know what I mean? And like you don't really want to watch the other team win, but you don't want to watch the team lose. I don't know what I'm talking about, but at the end of the day, ratings don't really matter to just normal fans. They only matter to people in the corporate head offices and advertisers. Like, people shouldn't worry about ratings or whatever. Yeah.
I agree. I fully agree.
Yeah,
Freddy's going to fully agree with us, just to argue with us on the other side of it. But
Yeah, that's the health. That's the healthiest way of looking at it. I mean, it should be for the corporate execs. Yeah. Although, I guess just a one change of topic. It's that this is something that I've noticed from spending all my time, on Instagram and also like Reddit and whatnot, is that the AEW fan base is the most, or it's just uberly toxic, is what I've noticed. Like you look at double standards. Like I'm sure y'all remember the Darby Allin allegations back in the day, or like, because it feels like, to me, from what I can see, is that people are far more willing to defend AEW than they are for WWE. Because like when the whole Ric Flair thing came out, or how they wanted to cancel Brock for the Dark Side of the Ring episode, like, it's like, yeah, like that happened, that's shitty, but you can't criticize them and then try to negate what people like. If you look at the Sammy Guevara thing, where he was like, I would want to rape Sasha Banks, from that one episode of I forgot the name of it, but yeah, but that happened. Sammy Guevara, being like, yeah, I want to rape Sasha Banks. Granted, he did take it back, and he did like learn from his ways, but at the same time, you can't cherry pick who you criticize if you're gonna praise the other. Like, I'm not even entirely sure that Darby's completely innocent. All I know is that he showed some text to Tony Khan, but at the end of the day, like, that's not enough. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, granted, AEW does handle this very well sometimes. If you look back in the day, Jimmy Havoc. Jimmy Havoc was one of those guys from when I was younger, and back when he was in Progress, that he was one of my favorites in the world when he came out like that. Then it's like, it's a natural discourse to have him fight, or like a Marty Scurll, for instance. That was someone who, if he was in AEW, the landscape of the title scene would probably be a lot different, because Marty Scurll's one of those guys that just clicks with the business. Like, the villain was massively over, and he was just a genuinely good wrestler. Granted, outside personal things obviously dictate otherwise, but it's like, I don't know. I feel like people put AEW on a higher pedestal because it's the flavor of the year, or it's the alternative that they're letting to give it slide, because a lot of fans hate WWE more than they like AEW, if that makes any sense.
No, I agree with that last statement for sure. Yeah, they do, for some reason. All right. Any other thoughts before we wrap things up? Well,
No.
I think at the end of the day, we've all kind of said our piece, and what we can universally agree on is that we don't inherently hate AEW. We all want to see it succeed. Between booking decisions and just the fact that they signed every person under the sun, we all are hesitant to believe that it will ever be anything different than companies like TNA and WCW. The long story short of it all is that AEW seems to be here to stay, and we have to just hope for the best. And I, as I said before, hold true to this simple fact. Good pro wrestling, no matter where, no matter who, and no matter when, is still greater in abundance than it is in a small amount. And right now we have more great pro wrestling in the wrestling world than we have ever had before. Both in America and in Japan. And Mexico, everywhere. You go, wherever you go, and it's great pro wrestling. Even in WWE, where we have all been very critical of the booking and very critical of their decisions over the years. We still are. However, they have been upping their game. And whether or not it's to compete with AEW directly or not, it is still a benefit of the competition. Competition breeds quality. And quality pro wrestling is what I signed up for as a fan. And as long as I continue to get that, I'm not going to complain too much. And I don't think anyone will. So, that being said, I would like to thank our very special guests on today's podcast episode, Austin, Rafan, and Adam, for joining us. Any parting words to our fans?
I mean, at the end of the day, you're gonna like what you like. It's good pro wrestling. What is the best will always prosper, and so, you're in for the long haul. Stop being overly critical about things. Just enjoy the wrestling that's on your screen.
Agreed 100%, Adam.
To the fans, let's appreciate and enjoy everything we got, because you never know when's going to go away. And to steal Freddy's thunder a little bit, never be afraid to be a fan.
You're stealing my end game there, Raf.
I watch your podcast too much, man. I've been on this too much.
Anything else, boys?
Nope.
And thank you, Freddy, for allowing us to be here and to speak our minds on something that I think all of us do have an opinion on.
Well, we're always happy to have you guys. You're always welcome on the pod. Angelo and I are always happy to have guests. And you're always welcome. Feel free to come join us again sometime soon. And thank you for being here. It was definitely a great conversation tonight. I could shoot the breeze and talk about wrestling until we're blue in the face and 3 o'clock in the morning, honestly. So, thank you, boys. Look forward to having you on the podcast again. And with that being said, my name has been the host with the Hollow French Toast, Freddy Carlson, and I would like to thank all of our listeners and fans for joining us on the pod today. Remember to like, share, and subscribe our podcast with all of your friends and family. We will see you all again next time very, very soon. And as always, and always remember to never be afraid to be a fan of the greatest sport in the world, professional wrestling. Thank you all. Have a wonderful weekend. We will see you all very soon. So long, everyone.